I mean, when I first started doing the podcast, it was really the concept that I had was this is going to be a good way for me to potentially attract deal flow, maybe raise capital. And back then I was doing coaching, right? I was actually helping people do projects and developments. And today that's no longer the case, right? I'm still doing development. So obviously the deal flow is nice. Although I haven't really seen too much deal flow come through directly from the podcast, but I would say it probably helps indirectly because people maybe see me and they think of me when they have a project. So that's a benefit. But I think the main reason and this kind of came through doing a bit of research. Okay, was there's a gentleman that I've been kind of following, listened to several of his podcasts. He's got a great podcast of his own, which is Rob Dyrdek. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. And he was a professional skateboarder, super interesting guy. And anyways, he did a recap on his episode 100, where he talked about the journey of his podcast in terms of why he started it, what happened in the first kind of 10 to 15 episodes, what happened from 20 to 50, what happened from 50 to 100, and why he thinks there's this progression, if you will. And I've noticed it for myself as well. And so I'm going to share some of that with you. But I'm going to start with, like, I think the main reason, at least for me, to have a podcast is to be able to share my business, investing, and personal philosophies with the mindset that either people are going to resonate and like what I have to say, or they will be repelled and say, you know what, I don't like how Shane thinks about investing or family or whatever it happens to be. And in either way, it's like a way to streamline building a relationship with the right people, and a way to kind of, prevent me from doing business with someone that doesn't make sense. Okay. So that would be kind of like the overarching theme of why to have a podcast for me. Right. And so I'll tell you a little bit about Rob's journey of what he found. And it was just crazy. Like when I was listening to it, I was listening to it in the rain in Okotoks because my daughter's game was getting rained out. And so I was waiting in the truck to see whether or not they were actually going to play. Unfortunately, they didn't end up getting to play, but, I was able to still walk away with some good insights. Okay. So initially, Rob started off just like I did in terms of, and these are like separate journeys. However, they're very similar in terms of how they align. And that is, he started off by first kind of talking about what he calls the Dyrdek machine. And for me, it was like, here's kind of how I look at investing in commercial real estate, right? What I would call like a lot of how-to, right? How to find properties, how to underwrite them, how to raise capital, if you go back and probably listen to the first 20, 30 episodes, which I'm going to maybe re-release because I realized that people, now I'm like 4 years into the podcast, there's a good chance that you maybe didn't go back and listen to all those old ones. And if you did, then maybe sometimes just having a refresher is not a bad thing either. So I will release some of the most kind of content-packed episodes. And so you might hear those every once in a while. So after he did the how-to, then he went into interviews. And so I did interviews for a little while. And it's not to say that I won't do interviews into the future, but for me, I have to be excited about who it is that I'm interviewing. And I appreciate the fact that people reach out to me. I would not be exaggerating if I don't get 2 to 3 people a day that reach out saying they would love to be on my show. They have a book, they have this, and I get it. That's how I got on other people's podcasts in the past. But the reality is, if I'm not interested and the topic isn't interesting to me, I'm just not going to have that type of person on. And so it's very rare that I have interviews. And so if I do, it's from someone that I'm truly interested in learning from. And I've had a couple of great conversations as of late, like people that I bought their books and I was able to interview. I mean, it was just really awesome, right? Almost like when you get to meet your quote unquote mentors or the people that you've learned from and then have like a one-on-one conversation. To me, that was exciting. And hopefully I'll be able to continue doing that, but it will be in a very, it won't happen very often. Okay. Then I started to share what I would consider to be like proprietary information. And I will do this once in a while, as long as it doesn't impact my investors or my partners. And frankly, most of my partners have zero interest in me sharing any kind of behind the scenes details. They feel that it just, there's no benefit to us doing that. I can see their perspective and I have to be respectful of that. And frankly, there are just certain things that don't make sense for me to share. And the other issue with that is when I share information on a project in the past, I think the risk is that someone will take that information, like, when I did my industrial condos, and that worked out very well. There's a lot of variables that are no longer in effect today, or like the retail projects that I've done in the past, they would not necessarily hold true today. And so I'm just nervous about sharing specific deals because I don't want someone to take that information out of context, apply it to their own market and deal or world, if you will, and expect the same results. Like, to me, that's I'd be doing you a disservice by implying that is the case. Okay. And so I think what's more valuable and what Rob has talked about, and it kind of solidified for me that sharing the philosophies in terms of like how he thinks about investing, how he thinks about business, how he manages his health, his fitness, his family, all those kind of roll up and help you to become either better or worse, right? In terms of like whether or not you're eating healthy, waking up early, building the right relationships with the right people, managing your emotions through a difficult or challenging deal. I mean, these are like the maybe more the soft side that people don't share very much about, but I can tell you, like, it's really the difference between kind of being a one-hit wonder and having like a 20, 30, 50 year path to doing real estate developments or building your business or whatever it happens to be. And so I think for me personally, number one, I want to share more of what I'm learning, what I'm doing, and hopefully you'll find that valuable. It might turn away some of the people that are kind of more the nuts and bolts, like underwriting, show me a specific deal. I think that there's enough people out there that are doing that right now that, and it's not to say that I'm not going to share specifics. If you have questions, I always would encourage you to send me an email, and I'm happy to, if I can answer, I will. I'll do my best in terms of like the information that's provided. And often I think what I'll end up doing is asking or giving you the questions that I would ask to uncover and verify, right? Because I think that that's probably the value that you will get the most out of, right? In terms of if I just tell you what I think, that's helpful. However, I will tell you what I think, but what are the questions that I would use to really dig deep and confirm whether or not it's accurate. Okay. So I'm just trying to think here. Yeah. So I've just got my notes, and this is a bit of a different format. So I think going forward, I will answer specific questions like I mentioned. I might talk about projects that I've completed, as long as there's kind of this broad understanding that just because a deal that was done 12 months ago does not mean that same deal would hold true today, right? But I think, like I said, some of the reasons or the philosophies on why I'm doing it or why I wouldn't do it, I think that those would be the most beneficial to learning from. And then I'm just going to share how I'm thinking about doing deals, how I'm thinking about, like, for example, I'm not looking to invest outside of Calgary, and there's lots of reasons for that. But the biggest is I just don't like to travel. I don't like being away from my family, and that may not be the same reason. Like that's not a good business reason, but that's a good life reason, if you will. And so I have just a set of non-negotiables that for me work. And so I think it's important to have your own set of non-negotiables. Like another one is like, I'm really not interested in having more partners. I'm not really interested in having more general partners, if you will, because I've just experienced things that now that I'm 15, 20 years into this business, I'm just changing the way that I want to do business. It doesn't make it right or wrong, right? Like I have friends that have 300 limited partners, that have multiple, they're co-GPs. They're doing all these kind of creative, interesting deal structures. And I'm fascinated. And sometimes I listen to it and I think, man, that would be so cool, right? To have an institutional partner or do this. And it's not to say that we couldn't, or we may not change our mind in the future, but right now that just has very little appeal to me. And so I'm okay to go slower, build 100 to 150 towns a year, maybe do the odd project that is just like, that just fits, right? And it might mean that I'm not going to grow as fast, but I'm not doing it for other people. I'm really doing it for myself, right? And so I think that that's probably one aspect that I would encourage if you're listening to this is to, and it's hard, right? Because especially on social media, online, to see how other people are, blowing up in a good way, right? In terms of like how fast they've grown and 10x this and just, hustle. Yeah, that's one way to go about it, if that's really what you want. However, if you're just looking for more time to be with your family, like understand like why, like what's the core of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and does that like that business model that you're pursuing, does that like help or take you away from what it is that you're after? And so this isn't meant to be kind of a goal setting workshop, if you will, although maybe in the future I will. I will say, if you do go to Rob Dyrdek's, I think it's called Build with Rob, his podcast, he's got like, I'm just re-listening to a lot of his episodes again, and he does a great job about how to get clarity, how to, set your goals, how to, like, I'm trying to think of the, like your life design. And I think that if you can do that in the context of why you're investing, I think the decisions that you make, the people you do business with, and how you approach investing will be vastly different than if you are just focused on the numbers, right? I want to get to 5,000 doors. I want to get to $1 billion, whatever that is, right? Like that's fine, but why? And hopefully that clarity that you kind of get through thinking about it will be more important than the end goal, because there's a process to get there. And if you don't enjoy the process to go from point A to point B, then in my mind, you might get to point B and be very unhappy. I've seen a lot of people in this business sacrifice their health, their family, their relationships. They achieve the goal that they went after to the exclusion of everything else. And when they get there, they realize how important or how unfulfilling they feel by getting the big number, right? I'm worth 100 million, I'm worth 50 million, or whatever the number is, right? And now they're divorced and they barely see their kids and they're all grown up. And now they're backtracking as best they can to make up for 20 years of just, head down persistence to get to this end goal. And, I've seen it like multiple times. Good, hardworking mentors of mine, and not my key mentor, but my, other people that I've been around. And so I just share that as a bit of a cautionary tale in terms of like just knowing what it is that you're after and why you're after it. Taking that time, because, and that's, I think, hopefully what I can maybe share, because one kind of philosophy that I have is if I can share information that maybe saves someone from making a mistake. Like I look back at some of the key mistakes I've made that have literally cost me tens of millions of dollars, projects that I've spent so much time and energy, like thousands of hours on. And if I could get that back because I would have had someone kind of ask me the right question or point me in a different direction, it would have saved me a ton. I can't go back in time. So I think the best thing that I can do now is just to share some of the ways that I'm thinking about investing, like I said, and business and family and health. And I'll share that with you, and hopefully it helps someone. If it does, wonderful. If it doesn't, and this is maybe the last podcast you listen to with me, hey, I appreciate the fact that you tuned in, and good luck wherever you end up going. If you do want to continue on with the ride, I'm excited to kind of take that challenge on, and we'll see how it goes. So that's it for now. Once again, appreciate you listening, and have a great week, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.